Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Don Boucher, and I serve as the director of the Diocese of Davenport's Office of Faith Formation and coordinator for youth and young adult ministry for the diocese. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to the second of our two evenings on mental health as part of our focus on Mental Illness Awareness Week. Tonight's session is on wellness. So we're looking forward to this. Before we get started, I do have a few announcements. First, we want to thank our main sponsor for this evening, the priests of the Diocese of Davenport. They've been very generous in their support, and I know this topic of mental health is one that is near and dear to them. And so we really thank them for their support this evening. We also want to tell you about some resources that we have available. If you're interested, our speaker, Roy Pettifees, has a couple of books that we are making available to you. And we also have a couple of prayer cards that if you're interested, you can purchase those and have them for yourself or to give to others as well. All you have to do is go to davenportdiocese.org/MIAW for Mental Illness Awareness Week, MIAW order, and you can place your order there. Tonight also, I want to introduce you to a couple of individuals who have spent a lot of time helping to plan this week, our observance of Mental Illness Awareness Week. The first one, Tommy Fallon, who's the Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry for Saints Mary and Matthias Parish in Muscatine. And Tommy's going to tell you a little bit about how to bring in your questions tonight for Roy.
Hey, thank you for joining us tonight. There are a lot of people sharing this stream to their parishes or their individual Facebook pages, which means there can be comment sections in a lot of different places, and that'd be very hard to monitor. So if you comment in the Facebook stream, we'll do our best to funnel those questions to Roy. But your most direct way of getting your questions to us tonight for Roy to answer is to email them to askroyp@gmail.com, or you could text 563-275-6545. Again, that's askroyp@gmail.com, or text them to 563-275-6545. And we will also be putting those back up as the night goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. And the next one I want to introduce you to is Evan Branken, who is the direct coordinator for youth ministry and confirmation at Our Lady of Victory Parish here in Des Moines. And Evan's going to get us started in prayer tonight.
Thank you, Don. Welcome, everyone. And it's good to be here with you tonight. Let us begin by placing ourselves in the presence of God, creating a place of quiet in our hearts where we can hear his voice. We begin in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Lord, we come before you tonight at the end of this beautiful, beautiful day. Thankful for all of your blessings. We want to pray for everyone who is joining us tonight on this live stream. And for all of the youth of our diocese, especially for their mental health in this time. We ask again the intercession of St. John of God and Saint Dymphna, who are the patron saints of mental health. And we pray in a special way for those in the path of Hurricane Delta, including our presenter, Roy Pettifees, his family, and the people of his great state, Louisiana. We also want to pray tonight just that you would send us many blessings, Lord, especially from our youth. We thank you for being this great God of compassion. When we're hungry, when we're beaten down by this world, that you offer us refreshment in yourself. And with you, we can find nourishment for all of the ways in which we are dry, thirsty, hurting, or broken. May we see where you provide for us, Lord, because many times we can't see it. Sometimes we reject you. But Lord, we have to admit that we need you. When we're shaken, you are not. When we're broken, you're strong. You never stop offering your love and your compassion for us who are weary. When we can't figure out what to do and it feels like everything we do is wrong, you are still there, waiting, arms wide, ready to receive us, to welcome us. And we can't understand your acceptance and love, but still you offer it. So help us to accept it. Lord, we pray that you'll have compassion on our doubts, our fears, our actions, our thoughts, the wrestling that happens within us. Show us new ways, Lord. Help us to see your care and your kindness, especially when we feel empty and alone. Lord, we need your compassion, and we need compassion from others, and we need compassion for ourselves. Help us to notice and embrace the compassion of your Son that is offered to us, and help us to extend that compassion to ourselves and to others, to be your hands and your feet, your ears and your voice, your eyes to see suffering in this world, especially when it's hard for us to do. We ask this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And on this, the great feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, Our Lady of Victory, we pray for Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Evan. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter for tonight. Roy Pettifees is an internationally recognized expert in understanding and raising teenagers. He is a licensed therapist in Lafayette, Louisiana, and an internationally sought-after speaker who uses humor, passion, clinical and life experience to help adults connect with teens and with teens to know, understand, and love themselves. He's an award-winning author with several books concentrating on teenagers. He holds a master's in mental health and school counseling from the University of Louisiana in Lafayette. He is a true gift to our Catholic community in this country in the area of teenage mental health. And we are indeed blessed to have him with us this week in our diocese. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present to you Mr. Roy Pettifees. Roy?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Tommy, and all of you guys for showing up tonight. Forgive my Cajun slang. I'll use the word y'all a lot. I'm just, it's a joy to be with you virtually. But I have to tell you how disappointed I am that it's virtual, because I was really looking forward to meeting these guys and spending time with them and meeting all of you. And I've never been to the great state of Iowa, so I was really looking forward to that. But hopefully one day this Cajun will make his way up there. And so tonight, let me get my screen share going here, and we'll get that started. And tonight, between our presentations on caring for oneself, on our own wellness, and I'm really excited to know that we've got some young people, some teens, some young people who are joining us in addition to the adult audience and adults, whether it's parents or any caring adult in the life of a young person. So, and I have a whole section of the presentation where I just want to speak directly to you young people and your own wellness, and about how that is not just challenged by school and a whole bunch of things, but I want to speak directly to the importance of you guys leaning on each other. And as you might have seen in the intro video, how you may find an adult that you'll talk to, but you're most likely going to reach out to one of your friends first. And if you're the one being reached out to, how do you help your friends who might be going through some serious stuff? And so we'll talk about that tonight as well. This young man here, his name is Chaim Potot. He is a Jewish author and Pulitzer Prize winning author of a book called The Chosen. And unlike most of us, Chaim not only knew what he wanted to do when he was in second grade, that is what he ended up doing. I wanted to make donuts until I found out how early they had to wake up in the morning. But, you know, he went to his good Jewish mom one day and he said, "Mom, I think I want to be a writer." And she looked back at him and said, "Chaim, that's nonsense. You're too smart to be a writer. You could be a doctor and make a lot of money for us and keep a lot of people from dying." And so he just kind of packed the dream away. And when he was in high school, one of his teachers marked on one of his papers, you know, said, "This is remarkable and you do really excellent work." And it brought back to mind that dream of being a writer. And so he goes home and he says, "Mom, you know, blah, blah, blah. I think I want to be a writer." And his mom is like, "Chaim, stop it. That is nonsense. You're too smart to be an author. You could be a doctor, son. You are brilliant. And you could make a lot of money for us and keep a lot of people from dying." And so he packed the dream away once again until his third year at university, when a multidisciplinary group of his professors from English, math, you know, science, history, all of these professors gathered together. And what the lead professor would say was an unprecedented gathering. And he said, "Chaim, we want you to know that we feel we feel compelled to let you know that while you might make a fine doctor, we feel that we've read your writing and you have an incredible insight into the human experience, unlike anything we've ever seen, especially at such a young age. And we really want to encourage you to reconsider, you know, devoting your life to writing and to chronicling the human experience." And so he goes home that summer and he tells his mom, he goes, "Mom, I know you're not going to want to hear it, but listen, I've decided I'm going to be a writer." And she loses it. You know how moms lose it, right? And dad's, well, she goes, nuclear. And at the top of her lungs, "Stop it, son. This is nonsense. Son, you're not brilliant. You're a genius." And history would bear his mom to be correct on that. You're not going to be a writer. You're going to be a brain surgeon and make a lot of money, son, for both of us, and keep a lot of people from dying. And he looked at his mom and he said, "Mom, you stop it. I don't want to keep people from dying. I want to show them how to live." And what an opportunity for those of us who claim to follow Christ. Even those of us who don't maybe claim to be followers of Christ. You know, they didn't call themselves really as much in the very early days of Christianity, Christians, right? That name kind of came over the years, but it came in time. But they were followers. They were people of the way. They followed. They were followers of Christ. And as people who follow Christ, one of the things that those early followers did was that they watched Jesus. And Jesus showed them how to live. And very often, when the doo-doo was hitting the fan blades, when it was busy and there were thousands of hungry, needy, sick people who were hammering the followers of Christ to be able to get to him and get him out here, we need him. And they couldn't find him. They looked all over for him. And when they finally found him, you can bet they were a little perturbed. They're like, "Where the heck have you been, dude? Look at all these people. Like, you can't just start working miracles and then we drive up a crowd and then you disappear." And he was like, I needed to spend some time alone. He was often praying. You know, we've got several instances, which are not the only instances, but the ones that evangelists chronicled for us in the scriptures of Jesus going away and practicing self-care. And understanding that sometimes when we've got to take care of our own wellness, that other people might not be happy about that. And I have experienced that. And so when sometimes in order to care for ourselves, we've got to set boundaries. As we get older and as we go through life, we learn to not make commitments that aren't going to reverence our own wellness. And we learn how to deal with that up front. But as we begin to learn, a lot of times we're in commitments and we're like, oh, whoa, I'm not sure that I can do this anymore. You know, I might have been able to work 60 hours a week 3 years ago, but I can't work 60 hours a week now. My hair has all fallen out. Or, you know, I might have been able to make a 4.0 by staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning studying. But now I've taken on a sport, and now I'm the president of a club, and now I'm a student council rep. You know, and I something's got to give in there. And so sometimes we have to renegotiate those commitments. And Christ shows us how to live, and we have the wonderful privilege, and I know it can feel like a weighty responsibility, but we have a privilege of showing other people how to live. And as adults, we've got the privilege, the unique privilege of modeling for young people how to live our lives. And they watch us. They know when we are in chronic fatigue, chronic exhaustion, when we're not in prayer, when we're not taking care of ourselves. And they know that, and they go, well, maybe this is kind of what you're supposed to do. Maybe I am supposed to be a workaholic. And we've got a lot of workaholics in ministry too. It's a seedy underbelly of ministry, not just in Catholicism, but in all of Christianity. You know, but we're doing it in the name of Jesus, and that makes it better. But it doesn't. We talked about that this morning with the minister. So what is self-care? Well, I've never heard of that word. Well, care of one's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual self appropriate to one's vocation, state, and ministry. And so let's just take one example. What does that mean, appropriate to one's vocation, state, and ministry? Well, I'm 46. I really, 8 hours of sleep, I'm awesome on 8 hours of sleep. I can rarely sleep more than that now. I used to be able to. But, you know, I can do really well on 7, and I can do okay on 6. And you're probably thinking that you can too, especially if you're a young person. But you're going to do really well on 10 or 11 hours of sleep. You're going to do okay on 9, and you're going to get by on less than 8. Right? And so your state in life as a young person, your body dictates that you need more sleep. And yet you guys are some of the busiest people on the planet and cutting sleep short, not just because of schoolwork, but I know there's immense pressure to keep up socially. And that's when you socialize with your friends on Snapchat. I get all that as much as you can get it at 46 years old. As a parent, how do I care for my physical, emotional, mental? Well, you know, when you have a newborn, you're not going to be able to log in 9 straight hours of sleep, as Evan can tell us. And so that's, you know, maybe that is not appropriate to your state of life for that point in time. The problem is when we get into chronic, there's seasons when you're not going to be able to sleep a lot. There are going to be seasons when you're going to eat more than you might exercise. And there should be seasons when we fast and move our bodies more. There are going to be seasons when we feel more close to God, when we're more reflective, when we're spiritual, and we're coming up to that right now in one of those seasons. Winter is always a beautiful season to self-reflect. And for a lot of us, caring for ourselves during the holiday times will especially bring up moments of grief, people who we miss, people who we've lost in our lives, especially if we've lost them during the Christmas season, during the time of giving thanks, during this time of late fall. It's a time to be reflective. And yet there are times to work more. So that's what self-care is. Being the opposite of self-care isn't being selfish, it's neglect. And I'm neglecting myself. And if you neglect anything, the law of entropy takes over. You know, if I leave my car outside and don't drive it and don't do anything to it, like I did my weed eater for a while, it's not going to start. It's not going to stay where it is. It's going to regress. And we are the same way. If you're not growing, you're regressing. So why would we do it? Why would we care for ourselves? Well, hopefully most of us want to live a long life. Our personal relationships, we're able to not only give more, but receive more and experience more joy and richness and depth in our personal relationships. Obviously, Jesus modeled it. We don't want to burn out. We don't want to burn out. That's ugly. And I have burned out many times in several different things. And it's not good. You're disappointed. It disappoints yourself. It takes your body time to recover. And people watch us. People watch leaders, just like we talked about with Kai and Potap. Self-care because of trauma and secondary trauma. And we'll talk a good bit about that tonight. So whether you have experienced trauma directly or not, like many are about to hear in the next few days again in Louisiana, our folks to the west of us just had a Category 4 hurricane in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And now it looks like this one is it's gonna hit us directly, but they're still gonna get it. And there was a lot of trauma there, and we're gonna see a lot of re-traumatization, opening up the wound and pouring lemon juice in it. Right, so that's a primary, I'm directly experiencing it. But if you watch CNN Friday night, or even better, Saturday morning, or watch the news, whatever news you watch, Fox News, I'm not picking one or the other, don't kick me off. You will get a taste of secondary trauma through mind mapping. And we're going to talk about that in a second, because you're going to see the destruction. You're going to see, if you looked at the city of Lake Charles right now, like I would, go ahead and Google it. You can find the images on Facebook. It looks like every home in Lake Charles from about 20,000 feet up has a swimming pool. But they're not swimming pools. They're blue tarps over the roofs. And it's just, you're like, oh, wow. Certainly we're not the only people, who have natural disasters. I can't even imagine fire. I will take hurricanes any day over fire, for sure. And we will take it over a blizzard, which I know you guys get up there. People watch later. But secondary trauma is when I hear about it. And we're all exposed to that on some level. And it's something that we don't consciously give enough attention to. Why don't we do it? Because we're busy, we're overcommitted. We feel like we have to do everything. And that, I get it. I do too. It's hard as hell for me to say no. I said yes to some things this fall that I should not have said yes to. I've got the word no taped up on my wall in many different places around here. And I've been saying no more. Just to not get overcommitted, because I've got some of the big commitments on my plate. Sometimes and this is me too, conflict avoidant, hated conflict. I used to really hate it. Hated it, loathed it. I would avoid it consciously and unconsciously at all costs. I was a people pleaser, and I just wanted people to like me. And when I was in grad school for counseling, we have this class called group therapy, where you sit around and, you talk about your problems or whatever. And you talk about life, and eventually there's going to be conflict. And one evening, my professor, this wise woman, two of the group members are arguing, and she pauses the group. She said, "Time out, group." And she goes, "Roy, would it be okay if I made an observation?" And I was like, "Absolutely, Dr. Elliott, observe away." She goes, "I've noticed that every time there's conflict in the group, you reach into your book sack and pull out a box of Tabasco Cheez-Its." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And she said, "It's okay." She goes, "But I just want to observe that that's one of the ways you self-soothe, and it might be good for you to look into some of the reasons you don't like conflict." And mine were pretty obvious. I didn't have to dig deep. My grandmother and my mother, when I was a kid, there were several traumas of fights, of abuse, of violence, physical violence when I was a kid. And every time voices would get raised, it would make me feel, and I would do anything to mediate the conflict. And what happens when we do that, we lose the respect of others, and we lose our self-respect, and we drive ourselves crazy. And today I I don't look forward to it, but I sure don't avoid it because I've got a lot of tools and I've learned how to manage it. And if that's something you struggle with, there are skills on that. There's books on it. You can read up about it. Sometimes it's just languaging it. And then as you navigate some more successfully, you get better at it and you learn, oh, this isn't going to kill me. Sometimes we lack role models and we think that we should all be able to do as much as celibate and perpetual vows of chastity brothers and sisters and religious do, and we can't as lay people. We feel selfish. Another one of the, and so I want to just make it, to me, real simple. There are things in our life like siphons, right? Siphons. And these are things that drain our energy. These are people, these are experiences, these are tasks that we have to do. Like one of my siphons is doing any kind of paperwork. Like Don had to email me 3 times for a contract because I once, 4 weeks ago, had a secretary who did all of those things for me, and we just had to talk about it. And now I'm no longer with that group, and I don't have a secretary, and now I've got to do it. And I would literally rather eat glass with worm guts in it than do paperwork. It drains my energy. Sometimes we've got to do it, but I will tell you, not only do I know, but my wife knows, and all the folks who are in my support group know me and love me. They're going, when's that secretary coming? Like I realize that you've got to redo a complete office. You got a lot of stuff on your plate, but we love you and know that if you don't find someone to supplement that weakness of yours, what you're really good at, which is communicating, speaking, counseling, and being with people, that's going to suffer, and so will you. And they're right. So we can do them episodically, but we can't do them over the long haul. They mute our enthusiasm, right? They steal our joy. They suck our passion. And we've got to be careful. People, activities, responsibilities. Now, sometimes we'll just need to avoid these things. And other times we have to learn how to negotiate it, because I know some of you young people are sitting there going, well, my brother is a siphon. And I guess based on what Mr. Roy is saying, I just need to avoid him at all costs. And maybe sometimes, but man, there are people, you've got to learn how to deal with it. You've got to learn how to deal with it. You've got to learn how to deal with it in yourself, right? And they go, well, those people are pushing buttons. Yes, they installed the button. They're pushing your buttons, but you can put a cover on that button. You can turn away. It's not always work-related, not always school-related, for sure. And then there are fillers. And again, these are people, these are experiences, these are tasks. These are things like, could even be things in your life that are really hard, but really, really juice you up. They replenish your energy. Even if you might have to give your energy, they stoke the fire of passion and enthusiasm. They fuel your motivation, which can be a very, very delicate thing. When we're younger, I think passion's not only the gift of young, but I think sustained high levels of, like to burn like a flare. And I just remember that in my teens and in my 20s and even my early 30s. And it's just like in my 40s, like I need to be a slow burning torch that just doesn't go out. And I've got to really care for my motivation. And your motivation will vacillate especially when you're young, around different things, as when you're an adult as well. People, activities, responsibilities. Who are those people who fill you up? And sometimes you've got, well, but they never call me. They never text me. Well, sometimes we've got to take the initiative. And yes, it would be nice if they reached out to us as much as we might need to reach out to them. But the fact of the matter, at the end of the day, is there are a couple of people in my life who will not do that, who I need to reach out to, because when I spend time around them, everyone else in my life can tell, because I'm just a better person. There are things that I do, there are tasks that I do, there are disciplines that I do that are fillers. So when I get to my office, and I've done this for the last 20 years, and I don't go to chapels, and that's okay, that I don't go to an adoration chapel, and it's wonderful if you do. But I'm too ADHD, and other people come in the chapel, and then I want to look at them, and then I want to talk to them. And I feel rude because I'm a Cajun and we're not talking to people. And then they're like, shut up, ball guy. And I'm like, oh, God, all right. So just in my office, and I sit on my couch, and I sit with God, and God shows up. God shows up here. And when I do that consistently, I'm a better man, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better son of God, I'm a better communicator, I'm a much better therapist, I'm a much better listener. What are the activities that you need to do? You need to be outside, right? Do you get juiced by being in nature? Do you need to do things with your hands? So those are the fillers. Those are just a few. And I want you to think about what are the siphons and what are the fillers? Because these things, while none of them, very few of these might cause you to have a mental health issue, right? Left neglected, neglecting the fillers or the siphons over time can cause you to experience things like chronic anxiety and depression and can turn into mental health issues. And especially that conflict avoidance, because that's a personality thing that really needs to get worked on. And you may never love it, but you certainly have to learn how to be able to tolerate it. So traumatic mind mapping, as we're talking about, sometimes just watching media, being on Snapchat, seeing these things can all mind map. And what mind mapping is it's basically, I'm looking at people, I'm looking at situations, and my mind automatically, most often unconsciously, for those of you who are more empathic, empathetic, you'll do that more consciously and more naturally, but we all do it. And we're looking at this, and this is a portable morgue outside of New York City. Like, this stuff shouldn't be happening in the United States, but we're seeing images like this. Most of us have never seen anything like this in our lifetime. We're watching, for those who are my age and younger for sure, we are watching a new civil rights movement, or a new version of the civil rights movement, right? I do believe in the 60s it was wonderful, like the iceberg, you only see 10% of the iceberg, and we made a lot of progress, and we have more progress to make, not just in race relations, but on all of those who are on the margins, right? All of those who are on the margins. But to see this happening in our country, the first time I saw it really gave me pause. And I mean, all good people, one marching, one peacefully protesting, and we've got 3 amazing people. I have police officers in my family, and you're never going to get me to say that all cops are bad. I know the vast majority of them. In fact, I know they are out there. I know. I watched one put his knee on the neck of George Floyd. I know they're out there, but I've never met one. They've all been really good to me. They stopped when I was stranded on the side of the road. They've come to my office and they've sat with me with a team who was about ready to kill themselves. So these are all good people. And this makes my chest tighten looking at it, like, you know, in the words of, for those of you who are old enough to remember Rodney King, why can't we just all get along? And we'll never all get along, but boy, I wish we had more civility. Look at these healthcare workers. What's going through this? Our minds are unconsciously picking up on that, and those things are causing secondary stress. So secondary stress is the result of mind mapping when we're not directly experiencing a traumatic event or something, you know, a crisis, but we hear about it. Therapists experience secondary stress. Doctors, priests, we all experience it, but I show up to work and do it at least 4 times a day. Well, maybe not 4 times, but at least twice a day. I'm going to hear something that is going to be like I did this afternoon, not long before I hopped on here. I heard some situations of abuse. That nothing shocks you when you've been doing this as long as I have, but some things do surprise you and they continue to make you sad. And I'm grateful for that. That, like in the words of Mother Teresa, who always prayed, "Oh Lord, may my heart break with the things that break the heart of God." And I'm glad about that. Traumatic stress, it's not immediately apparent. It feels illogical. It's their problem. Why is that affecting me? How in the world could that affect me? It does affect you. We have studied this. And sometimes it can cause us to re-experience, if we have any of our own personal traumas, it can cause us to re-experience them. You know, one of the greatest lies that I think my generation of parents has communicated to young people, not verbally, but indirectly, through over rescuing, over pampering, over placating, is that life is not supposed to be hard. Like I see, I was fortunate to grow up with some really, really, most of the first 18 years of my life was a trauma. And so I kind of grew up, well, that's what life is. Life is hard. And I work with a lot of young people for whom, when life gets hard, they're going to hit the wall of hard, or they hit the wall of hard, and they start looking around incredibly disillusioned and disappointed. And it's like, you never told me it was going to be like this, or how come this happens? And as people of faith, it is the bedrock symbol of our faith, and it's the cross. And it's a reminder every time we see the cross. Life is hard. It's wonderful now. And this isn't pessimistic. And it's not meant to be a Debbie Downer walking in, oh, I'm having a great day. Oh, crap, there's the cross. Life is hard. No. It's that I might look at it and go, man, I'm really glad. Thank you, Lord. I'm grateful that I'm not buckling under the weight of the cross right now. But I'm so grateful to know that when that day does come, and I know it will come again, someone will talk about me. They will spread rumors about me. They will share the nude photos that I've shared. Parents are going to talk about me. My kid's going to hate me. My spouse is going to feel like they hate me. People are going to cheat. People are going to lie. Sin is going to happen, and I will feel the brunt of it. And then when that happens, not if, but when that happens, I can look at that man who is nailed, that God man who is nailed to 2 pieces of wood, and be reminded that, yes, life is supposed to be that way. And that man is risen. And that's when we go through, and that's the Paschal mystery. It's a big old theological term that a lot of times we really don't know what it means. And it's that life is good, right? And so if you've ever been in love, right, that's mastery. It's wonderful. When I was first fell in love with my wife, oh my God, the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, just glorious chemicals going through my mind. It was wonderful. I think I tipped someone like $98 off of 100 for a pack of gum at the grocery store. And she's like, you forgot your change. I was like, she likes me. It's awesome, right? And then 3 years in, you discover your wife maybe has flatulence or something, and then you do something that upsets them, or that one of their personality quirks. And for most couples, close your ears, young people, it's when they have kids. And that thing that they love the most, and that they absolutely love the most, will be one of the first and one of the biggest challenges to their union. And that's when grace comes in, and that's disintegration. I knew the most sophisticated stroller in the world to get, what type of minivan, but no one bothered to tell me that I would never sleep another day in my life. That was disillusioning, right? And so you start disintegrating. You're like, oh, crud, I don't know what to do with this, right? For those of you who were in 8th grade, your last year of middle school, right before you went to high school, you're king of the hill when you're in 8th grade. You're the queen bee. But when you get to 9th grade, when you get to high school, you're just a peon again. Disintegration, right? Suffering and death. The friendship is going well. And then they forget about me, or they do something without me and don't include me. Disintegration. And we know that we won't live there. And reintegration, resurrection is, I need to figure out a new way of dealing with this. And part of the main skill, and I really want to make this clear tonight, when life is falling apart, when we're in suffering and when we're in death, and it literally can feel like dying, when that person you love breaks up with you and you want to take your life, you really have thoughts of suicide for the first time because you had been in that relationship for 9 months. And while many adults look at that relationship and go, oh, well, that was just 9 months. I know that you being in a relationship for 9 months is like me being in a relationship for 3 years when I was a teenager, because the amount of closeness that can happen. Unfortunately, there's not as much time to build the trust bridge underneath it, and you really do feel like your world is ending. It's like a divorce. It's not like a breakup. So when that happens, the critical skill is identifying, okay, this is the cross. We do all sorts of things in Lent to put the cross on us, but the greatest spiritual challenge is to be able to recognize the adversities and the difficulties in our life when they come as the cross. Mother Teresa said it all the time: if God puts you in a mansion, accept. If God puts you on the street, accept. If you are wealthy, accept. If you are poor, accept. Accepting what comes your way is so powerful. You know, this is an image, and I realize that young people, this was before many of you, were born, probably, some of you for sure. This is an image taken after the Twin Towers had collapsed and the planes had flown into them. And this one construction worker, Frank Solecchia, I know I could have found a less pixelated image. Frank Solecchia, and all of that rubble that millions of people had seen across the world on television, saw those two I-beams in the shape of a cross. And they pulled it out, and that cross is still at the memorial today, the World Trade Center Memorial, and it's the Heroes Cross. And the mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani, said that regardless of faith, regardless of religion, in the weeks after 9/11, that cross was a symbol of hope for many. It was a reminder that, yes, okay, God is with us. That God is with us in our suffering and in our struggles. So important. Because when Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, said, when we can identify and remember why we're doing something, we can deal with any method or any how. And so when we can find meaning in struggles that seem arbitrary, we can get through. That is a critical piece of personal wellness. It is a critical piece, and it's the piece that most concerns me about my friends and my young people and so many people today who are basically practical nihilists, where nothing matters. There is no God. Where do you find meaning? If everything's just arbitrary, what do you do when you get slapped upside the head? You literally don't know why you should be alive. And if there's no other reason to believe in God, it's that it gives us a way to find meaning, and we're hardwired for that. That's part of my philosophical Christian anthropology. Is that I believe that as human beings, we are hardwired for meaning. We are not hardwired to go through life and just go through it and have stuff happen and just not know why it happens. Now, some people are a little, superstitious and whatnot, and like they're like, oh, they look for too much meaning. But there is meaning that we've got to find. So we want to take care of ourselves. So we want to monitor secondary stress. And one of the ways that we need to do that during COVID is that, please understand, not everything that can be read, seen, and heard should be. I realize that, honestly, I know when I talk to my own teams about this, I just assume come and talk to the wall. Hi, wall, how are you? And it's going to be about that effective, because we're asking people to put down and limit these most addictive devices. Heck, I'm not even doing it right now. Like, I need to get better at it. But I know that if we limit those things, if we limit media exposure, if we limit the mind mapping to trauma, we will do better psychologically, spiritually, and physically. Process things with counselors, spiritual directors, adults, for those of you who are young people. Okay, so speaking of young people, all right, so, and whether or not, we have young people on, if you've got young people in your life, these are some good, at least, slides to refer back to help them help their friends. And that's a key skill, I think, that we need to be able to empower young people with, because they are hearing a lot of trauma from their friends. So how would I know, Roy, if my friend needs help? Intuition, maybe they ask, maybe they share. Observation. Jose's been different for weeks now. It just seems off. Something must be wrong. What should I do? One of my clients asked me. So some of the warning signs: withdrawing from social activities. They just kind of fall off the earth. They ghost not only you, but they ghost everybody. They seem down. Self-harm is a huge warning sign. Comments about killing themselves or not wanting to be alive. Out of control, risk-taking behavior. These are all warning signs that somebody is in need of help. If you see it, and a lot of times you guys go to each other, and so it's not like you've got to, do a reconnaissance. Sudden, overwhelming fear for no reason. Jake keeps telling me about stuff going on at his house. Must be tough being him. I know he expects me to say something helpful, but I really don't know what to say. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, Mr. Roy? Yeah. More warning signs. Not eating, vomiting, sudden weight loss, severe mood swings, drastic change in personality, extreme difficulty concentrating, overhearing concerning rumors, right? From multiple sources maybe that you trust. Those are certainly warning signs. I want to get back to Jake. I don't want to say the wrong thing, rarely, and I know you guys say this to one another, teens say this to one another, like they don't know what to say. And that your friend might expect you to say something. And this is what I would recommend. I wish I had a slide for you. Look at your friend and go, I think we both know that there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to make this better. I care about you. If I think of something that I really honestly think might be helpful, I will. But I just want to walk with you through it. And I'm here and I want to be able to listen. Now that sounds really weird because it sounds like a 46-year-old therapist. Put that in your own words. And tell that to your friend and go, it's okay. And you guys give each other permission to not be the fixer, because that's not even what therapists do. We listen. Get past this one. She keeps telling me something's wrong, but won't tell me what. It's scaring me. So what does help? Share your concerns. When your friend, like, I feel scared when you pull away. Your friend may or may not be ready to hear that. And that you can't always help that. You can't force someone to get help. Do your best to be there for them during difficult times without completely jumping in the pool. And you've got to be careful. If you struggle, and this is where you got to be honest with yourself, and this is guys and girls, if you're into drama, like if you're one of those people that feed off of drama, and when your friend's upset, you get upset with them in whatever version of way that might be. Meaning your friend's in the pool, in the emotional pool, wailing around, and you just like, well, I can't let you be alone. I like being in the pool too. And now we got two people in the pool drowning. Be careful and just be honest with yourself about that. And because very often you get in that pool, and sometimes the pool is not only deep, but there are sharks in the water. And now someone's got to go get two people out of the pool. So just be careful about jumping in. You can always throw a life preserver to the person who's in the pool. Be there for them, but don't risk your own mental health, right? And this is where I think the adults in your life and youth ministers and parents and counselors and teachers and coaches and aunts and uncles and grandparents can be helpful, because we can ask them, say, hey, what do you think? And they'll shoot you straight. Say, I think you're tough enough mentally and emotionally right now to be able to handle that. And they'll also come back 3 weeks later going, look, it doesn't look like they're really getting any help, and they're trying to use you as the therapist, and that's not going to work. And I'm seeing that affect you, and I think it's time for you to set some boundaries. And we'll talk about how to do that. I've noticed, is everything okay? Seems to me like you're not yourself. When I hear you say things like this, it really scares me. Let's talk to someone about it. And so we want to listen to understand, not listen to fix, which is what some people do. And even us therapists, we've got to be really careful that we're not listening to fix the problem. And so the power of listening actually changes the brain. When people feel like someone else understands, or at least even partially understands where they're coming from, and they feel heard, the brain wiring actually changes. The synapses fire differently, And cortisol begins to lower, norepinephrine, and all of these stress chemicals in the body lower. The amygdala begins to silence, and the prefrontal cortex, what there is of it, comes online, and it opens up. It's like the blinders open up. And you may have experienced that if you've ever felt really heard. 90% of what I do every day is listen really well to teens. And you can see it. Watch the blinders open up. And like, I don't have to tell them the solution. They can often see it. I'm like, so what are you seeing? What are you thinking? It can open up the heart, and it relieves pain. It sends out naturally occurring opiates into the body. It allows the other person to feel less alone. Walking with and being with other people, especially when we feel and know we're powerless to fix their situation, is an incredibly generous thing to do, but one, when you're young, you should be very careful, and you should do it very carefully. And if you are the teen therapist, and you know who I'm talking about, you know if that's you, because you're the one people want to go to and tell their problems about. And if you're the teen therapist, chances are you're like me, and you actually really enjoy hearing about other people's problems. But what happens is you enjoy hearing about their problems, and that's great in September. But as we get into mid-December, when exams are coming due, and your sports seasons, and you've got championships, and you've got the holidays, and you've got your friend upon friend telling you their problems, you get overwhelmed and you start melting down. And that's okay, but let's just be aware of what's causing some of the meltdown. And again, secondary stress and even primary stress. So reach out to an adult you trust, right? Friends, family. Offer to go with your friend to talk to an adult. School teachers, coaches, counselors, core team, church. Offer support. How do I support? How can I best support you right now? I ask that question in most of my sessions. How can I best help you? What do you want? What do you need from me? How can I best support you right? It doesn't have to, well, I just don't know how to support them. Well, did you ask them? And they may say, I don't know. And then what you would say to follow up with that is, when you do figure that out, please let me know, because I want to support you, but I'm worried that I might do something that just might make it worse. And if all you need is for me to listen, I can do that. You know, I can listen. Is there something I can do? What about if you and I find some others who can help? What about counseling? Can I go with you? Can I help you find someone? Go with you to talk to your parents about that. These are all things that you can do. And it takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of maturity to be able to do these things. Can I pray with you? It's so powerful. Can do that. Changes lives. I know my life has been changed when friends have prayed with me. How can I best pray for you if that person is not willing? Offer to go to a retreat activity with them. Can I pray with you real quick? And make it quick. You know, unless you've got a sense that it's okay for it to be elongated, but it can really, you know, get awkward maybe. And you know, a quick prayer can be really, really powerful. Lord, please help her. Please help him. You know, neither one of us really know how to fix this situation, but I know that you're with us, and if we're open to your spirit, Lord, anything can happen. And we make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So we want to follow up. We want to check in with them. We want to call, text, FaceTime, Snapchat, talking in person. Wonderful. Check in after they may see a counselor and just say, hey, how you doing? Now, again, if they shun you more than a few times, you know, you don't need to continue to follow up. But just kind of check in. Don't stop inviting them to talk with you and be with you, even if they say no once. Some things you want to avoid saying. You'll get over it. It's true. There's a wonderful movie, if you haven't seen it, called The Penguins of Madagascar, and Skipper is the funniest penguin of all. And he turns around, and I forgot what the Kowalski said, but he said, Kowalski, remember our little talk about true but unhelpful comments? And that's what I think of. You know, toughen up, snap out of it. There's a silver lining around every cloud. Other things you find on Pinterest that look good, and may read and be cutesy, but aren't really helpful to other people when they're in the crapper. Like, don't say those things. Boundaries. So setting boundaries. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Am I worried, afraid, mad, sad, hopeless? These are good things to do to just increase your own self-awareness in general, whether you're an adult or a young person. How are you? Are you worried, afraid, mad? What am I feeling right now? What's really going on? So that's insight. What am I feeling? And then what's going on? Why is it going on? Is the level of insight. Being overwhelmed by a friend's stuff is normal and it's okay. Avoid promising what you can't deliver. Don't let them tie your hands. Don't say, I need you to promise not to say anything. Don't let your friend tie your hands and promise not to say anything, because you shouldn't do that. If they tell you they're going to hurt themselves, very often that's an unconscious, passive cry for help. And so you can't promise not to tell someone, but you can continue to encourage them to try to tell them to do it, especially with confidentiality. Admit your limitations and admit, look, I don't know. So fillers, just in general, and this is for all of us, you know, fillers, and everyone goes, give me some tools. And I always say, you know, you can have the whole Home Depot, but if you don't know that you need to build a house or want to build a house, all those tools are going to be useless. And so the biggest one is your body. Like, taking care of wellness is taking care of your body. And that is really, really, really difficult for some people to do. And it's not just leaping through the sand, but it's nutrition, it's rest, it's getting enough sleep, it's hydration, it's being proactive with your health. It's breathing. I love the watches for one reason, because they just remind me to breathe. And they always seem to know when I'm not breathing. Whew. That felt good. Awesome. And yawning is okay. Continued learning, healthy challenges, especially, you know, for adults, when your kids are learning nonstop. Like, they need breaks from learning. But when we get to an adult and we're not informal learning, continue to learning, especially about the main ways that you spend your time during the day, if it's work or whatever, increases your ability to feel effective at what you do, and it prevents burnout. Give yourself some healthy challenges. Take up a hobby, join a support group, get the Strengths Finder 2.0 and take the test and find out your strengths. Like, that was a life-changing book for me. The 5 Love Languages, Strength Finder, and the Bible, and some others, life-changing. But when I figured out, like, this is what I'm naturally good at. And the more and more I began to delve into those, I found that this is what I'm uniquely good at. And it's really powerful. And when you begin to do that, it doesn't just change you, it'll change everyone in the world around you. Obviously, spirituality, daily prayer. You know, we know church is a good idea, we know prayer is a good idea, but it doesn't feel like, if we're an overachiever, prayer doesn't feel like we're doing anything. And even, you know, as much as silence and solitude and some contemplative prayer practices today, in an age of anxiety, I believe, are so powerful. Anything is better than nothing. And God's just glad that we showed up. Pray the rosary, say a Hail Mary, say the name of Jesus, make the sign of the cross. Lord, help me. All of those are powerful prayers, just to do a little something every day. Journaling is wonderful. Go on a retreat. And again, young people often have plenty of retreats. And then, you know, after college, they never go on a retreat again. And so as adults, take the time to go away. Emotional health, relationships, mental health. You know, how are the relationships in your life? How's your own mental health? How are you dealing with your anxiety? Is it time for you to see your counselor? Maybe you saw them for a while and you haven't needed to see them for a while. And maybe during COVID, it's time for you to see your counselor. I am telling you that in November, we therapists will see, I'm predicting it, we're going to see a tsunami of clients. And especially for those of us who work with young adults, they are not connecting very well on college campuses. And then they're going to come home. Many of them are going to come home right after Thanksgiving or at Thanksgiving. and be off for like 2 months, and they're just feeling disconnected. We're going to see grief. A lot of stuff comes around the holidays. They're not the most wonderful time of year for everyone. And so take care of your own mental health. Emotionally, go to the graveyard. If you're grieving, I mean, that's one of the best things we have as Catholics, is like going to the graveyard. Right? It's not a notional thing. Or sit with the ashes. However, find a way that's meaningful for you to physically connect with someone who you've lost. Advances the grieving process. We can't rush it, but we can be intentional about it. And I see a lot of clogged up, backed up grief, unprocessed grief that causes a vast array of mental health issues. Love languages, of gifts, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, and physical touch. Dr. Gary Chapman wrote the book, The 5 Love Languages. Which one is yours? And do the people in your life know it? And do you know theirs? This is all part of wellness. Becoming aware of what your gifts and what your weaknesses are, and understanding why. Those are powerful. Enfin, as we say, en français down here, to end. This is a picture of the sidewalk in front of my house. And it's been busting up for probably 10 years. We've lived here, say my house is now my office, my old house. We moved out a month ago. And that cement had just been busting up. And when the construction workers are here, I was like, man, I guess we're going to need a backhoe in there to get that sidewalk up. We knew we'd have to replace it because, it needs to be handicap accessible. And he goes, no, just go get a sledgehammer. And so I went and got my sledgehammer, and I started busting up the cement, only to discover underneath it some 120-year-old bricks that are as old as the house is. And they're almost like red chalk. And what a find. And I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. Why would they cover this up with crappy cement? And I'll tell you why. It got bumpy. Those bricks started moving, right? They got out of place and they got bumpy, and they just wanted a nice clean cement. You know why it got bumpy? Because about 15 feet from that brick sidewalk, on both sides, you're only seeing one side of it, are some of the largest root-bearing trees on the planet, called the live oak tree. Those roots are already destabilizing the foundation of the house, which is 20 feet behind it. They are massacring that sidewalk. They thought that cement was going to work. I could tear up that cement, move the bricks, and put new cement, and in 5 years, that sidewalk's going to be busted up again. That I'm not even sure when or if I'm going to fix the sidewalk. I'm tempted to put a picket fence around that, because that's the most powerful life lesson in terms of self-care that I have seen in a long time. Don't put cement where there's meant to be bricks. The people who built this house planted those oak trees and put a brick sidewalk there because they knew the roots were coming. They knew, and they needed something that could bend around the roots of those trees. They probably went up in heaven looking down at the people who poured cement, going, idiots, that's not going to last very long. And they were actually, you could tell different types of cement. They poured it over it like 3 or 4 times. Be like the bricks. Be flexible. If there's any self-care principle that you take from tonight, be flexible, right? Be able to move. And right now, if you're not like the bricks, if you're rigid and you're stuck, and it's comfortable to be like cement because we know it's coming and it's predictable, especially if you have any sort of anxiety. But the cement's going to get busted up and it's going to look like an anxiety disorder. The bricks are going to roll with the roots. Okay, you have to stop sharing your screen to intro. Oh, that's for Don. Okay, I knew that, Evan. Thank you. Awesome. And there it is. I'm stopping, getting questions. So what do I do if the friend I'm trying to be there for just keeps pushing me away? Yeah, absolutely. Because you're pressing up against it. They're not ready for it. And so there's a few things you can do. there's a 10 minute. Oh, okay. Thought we had an hour and a half. Sorry. There's a few things that you can do. You can continue to go back. You can space out the times that you reach out to them. You can, and the Bible tells us you can go in and get another friend and then go approach them. You might, if you're really concerned, you might reach out to their parents and let them know. And parents, when a friend of your kid comes to you and tells you they're concerned, that's a red flag. They refuse to see or recognize the pain they're in, and nothing I do or say makes any difference. Yeah, and so there's a lot of reasons that folks don't want to get out of the pain. And believe it or not, the group Gochia wrote a song, I forget the name of it, and the line in the song is, you can get addicted to a certain kind of sadness. And it's true. And it's why people stay in abusive relationships, because the pain is comfortable. The pain of what they're staying in is better than the prospect that they have in their mind, their perception of how painful the change will be. My wife said that last night, like, we should be leaving. We should be evacuating, but we're not. I mean, she just said, I'm just too tired. Like that, we probably should. But the pain of what we're going to witness with these howling winds and all of that, in our mind is less than the pain and the discomfort that it would take to go and find a place 100 miles from here with our dog. So there it is. But we do it all the time. It's always a cost-benefit analysis. But hang in there, and you can pray for your friend. Don't give up on them. I was that friend for a long time, and I'm really glad people didn't give up on me.
So do we have any other questions out there for Roy? Feel free to put them in the comment section of the Facebook page. Roy, and I'm just wondering too, is there, if you were to recommend one thing, and I know everybody's different, but from your perspective, what's the one thing that virtually all of us can do to really keep ourselves on top of things and in a good space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to me, that's an easy answer for me. And my number one, and I think all of our number ones, is going to be prayer. And if you take that seriously, if you pray regularly, you're probably going to benefit from a spiritual director. And so in my mind, those things go hand in hand. And so for me, when prayer is in line, that's for me. And folks, it's one of those cardinal habits, right? You can brush your teeth every day. It's a wonderful habit, but it's probably not going to change your life. If you pray every day, it's going to change your life. And it's going to change the lives of others. And you're probably going to start brushing your teeth every day. If you need to exercise, you'll probably start exercising. That God has a way of making known to us other things that we need to do. And right behind that, I would say exercise. But pray. And I don't say that lightly. And if you know me at all, you know how much it makes me nauseous to say that, because I know it sounds so cliche, but I don't know any other answer. I believe.
I think we got another question in the couple of them.
Awesome. Absolutely. Besides, it's a great question. Who asked that? Oh, Tommy. Of course, Tommy asked that question. Besides the spiritual benefits of a prayer life, how does it affect us psychologically and biologically? So, we've studied these. So one, we're hardwired for connection. Like we've had psychological studies on babies, you know, with back when those things were ethical in terms of our human need for connection, right? And so prayer psychologically gives us a connection not only to God, but to ourselves, which is where God is, right? And so it absolutely is powerful for depression, for anxiety. Contemplative prayer, especially, it rests the mind and it rests the chatter. And both anxiety and depression are both disorders of thinking, right? One's focused on the past and one's focused on the future. Prayer grounds us and brings us into the present moment. It's not going to do away with it, but it absolutely does heal it. How do you determine who a good therapist is? Usually you have to attend a few sessions, sometimes word of mouth, asking about someone. There's usually a waiting list because, you know, if they're good, word's going to get out. Most people find good therapists through word of mouth. If it's a wait, don't be afraid of it. Now, if it's a wait because they only charge $5 an hour, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily good. But if there's a wait, that's good. Ask other people. And then in the first session, my clients are interviewing me. Well, not as much teens, but their parents are. They're interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing them. And sometimes on the phone. In my book, like in the book, God, I know I hate touting the doggone book, but there's a whole chapter on how to find a good therapist for your teen. Take all of that and do the same thing to find a good therapist for yourself. How to get past the secretary, how to get the therapist on the phone for free, and what questions to ask that give you the best chance of actually getting into a session, and it might be a good fit. And it might not be a good fit. And then in that case, get the hell out of there and go find someone else. Linda says you were going to tell them how to see a good, okay, I did, awesome. From Michael, is there an age you think you should stop volunteering a teen to attend mass or ministry function? Wow. Am I ready?
I want to hear the answer to this one.
I know you do. Everyone does, and I'm just trying to decide if everyone's in the Catholic world again, how I'm going to answer this question. I used to be a hard, fast no. So I used to be very, very clear that if a teen lives in your house as a parent, part of what you do is you go to church, and it's part of what we do. You know, whether you have issues or whether you believe or not. I've since worked with teens for whom going to some of these things, especially teens who are LGBTQ, going to these things can cause real panic attacks. And confirmation class, like, okay, you don't need to get confirmed in high school. You can wait till college and go through RCIA if going there is really, so my feelings around that have softened. Is there an age you think you should stop? I think that's going to be different for every parent. I don't necessarily have an answer for that. But what I do, and this is what I do with my sons, and they know that dad doesn't, not making them go to anything, and they really decided that they don't want to go to youth group, and between us and I guess everyone who might watch us, I kind of don't blame them for the reasons of them not wanting to go. You know, it was a big party the first session, and it was all fun and games and pizza. And then the next one was an hour and a half of the youth minister talking to him about the catechism. It was like bait and switch. And so, but why do you not want to go? Like, you've got to convince me that you have thought it through and that this isn't just an impulse. Fifth grade teacher asks what activities and strategies you'd recommend for elementary students. And I will be honest, fifth grade teacher, I really don't know. That's out of my area of expertise. I don't work with fifth graders for that reason. They tend to need more activity, things along those lines. I don't begin seeing teenagers in a minimum sixth grade, preferably ninth grade. But then I spend 2 sessions and make sure that they have the verbal capacity, because I don't do play therapy. How much exercise do you recommend for teens to have? Every day. They've got plenty of energy. every day. And some of them get it naturally. Wonderful. Just time spent in practice. Absolutely, time spent in practices. Not bowling practice. That doesn't necessarily count. But the swim team, whoo, my son did swimming last year. I don't know what I was thinking. Wow, they got abused in that pool and out of the pool. So yes, yeah, it's good. It's good for their brains. It helps them handle the stress. It's great. And I just want to know, I am aware that I kind of halfway skirted around that difficult question about volunteering. Like, I know that. Sorry.
I think that's okay, Roy. I think we're right about at the end of our time here. So before we close with a couple of announcements, I just want to take this opportunity to really thank you, Roy, for the sessions you've been with us this week, for saying yes to this, and for especially your flexibility. I know we were hoping to have you physically here, but with all of this that happened and being able to adjust in this way to still have you present with us, it's been a real gift for us. And I hope we can do it again sometime too. That'd be awesome. So to close, just a second here. I want to say one more time a big thank you to the priests of the Diocese of Davenport for sponsoring our program this evening. Your support and involvement in this project has really meant a lot and speaks volumes to the care that you all have for your flocks. And so thank you for that support. We also want to thank all of the rest of our sponsors for making this whole week possible. We could not have offered this without your financial help and your prayer and support as well. Also want to just remind you again, if you'd like one or both of Roy's books, we have them at a discount for you, and order some prayer cards. We have a lot of prayer cards, and so we'd be happy to send some your way for you or for others. DavenportDiocese.org/MIAW order. And I think what we'll do finally is to take a moment and give thanks to our God for this opportunity, and close with prayer. So let's take a moment once again to remember that we are now and always in the holy presence of our God. From St. John's letter. Out of his fullness, we have all received grace in place of grace already given. Lord, you give what we need as we need it. Your grace is not something we can make happen. And like the manna in the desert, it's available on time for us every single day. Sometimes we forget to give grace to ourselves. We struggle to receive the grace you give us. You give us time and space to feel the hard things and rest when needed. Help us to recognize when we need to receive your grace. In all the challenges we face, your grace never departs. May we know this more fully. We pray this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thanks once again for being with us, everyone. God's peace be with you.
Hey, Don,
Yeah.
before you end, we do have one more question for Roy, and I thought it would be a shame if we missed it. Roy, it's for you in the chat there.
Yeah. So what about when therapists give up on the teen and say they can't help? Great question. If it happens in exactly the way you said that, that's a breach of ethics, and it's called abandonment. And that is about as crappy as it gets. When the therapist says, now I will say that, so if I get into a session with a client and discover, like into 3 sessions, discover that they have anorexia or nervosa, I'm not going to say, look, I can't help you. I am going to say, I'm your general physician and you've got a broken leg. Like, I can give you medicine, but we need to get you to an orthopedic surgeon who can repair your broken leg. After the broken leg, we can come and see, but I need you to see someone else right now in order to do that. Or we need to hospitalize you because you're a threat to yourself. So it's not as much as, and because what the teen hears is you're beyond help. Even a freaking therapist can't help me. And that's horrible. And I'm sorry to hear that. And find a new therapist. And tell that other therapist what your experience was. Hopefully that helps y'all.
Thanks, Roy.
Got it.
Once again, good night, everyone. Peace be with you.